Today I'm excited to bring back Denise Snyder of the Duke University Medical Center to talk more specifically about some fascinating initiatives she did with the clinical trial competencies and implementing them across the university healthcare system for clinical research. Enjoy. So, you have some creative ideas for how to get people into clinical research. Tell me about them.
Yes, I think one of the things I've been highlighting for a number of staff and teams are transferable skills. I think one of the things we hear from our units who are doing the on the ground hiring, right, really bringing people into work on their research studies, is that they want somebody who has clinical research experience. And that is not who is showing up in our job queues, right? We're getting a lot of clinical research coordinators or CRCs and folks that have never stepped foot in a clinic. They don't have any idea. They may not even have any background, right? So we're seeing a lot of that, and we need to train those individuals and bring them up. And there's a lot that goes into that. But I think that there's a lot of opportunity in the area of transferable skills. And what I mean by that is across professions, not just nursing, we can really think about creating new staffing channels. So several years ago, a faculty member that I had worked with referred a PhD trained basic science scientist to me. She was working in a lab as a lab analyst, had been running and managing a lab for at least the last 10 years. But she said, can you meet me? I'd like to talk to you about my career. I'm considering a change. And this physician had suggested it. So I sat down, we had coffee, and this is pre-COVID. She had been at the bench, like I described, for more than 10 years. She wanted to do something different, and she really liked research. So I suggested that she considered clinical research. We offered a host of career opportunities, the ladders I've just, put out, and we've been working through for the last several years. But especially in our career model, it really provides a lot of opportunity. And I thought she'd eventually be an excellent research program leader, which is like a project manager of a lot of research portfolio, either for one investigator or perhaps multiple. However, I cautioned her that she'd likely need to take a step back, work as a clinical research coordinator to get some boots on the ground experience. And then after she actually worked as a CRC, I thought she'd have a better handle on clinical research. And I also thought, because of all her other work experience, would transfer those skills into the research program leader, and that she'd be able to really flourish. But again, part of that had to be a trust conversation with me. Like, if I take a step back, will I be able to get myself back to where I'm headed in a different direction in terms of my career, and really feeling like the compensation is matching up to what I can bring to the team. So after she worked as a CRC, she started interfacing with patients, understanding regulatory needs, understanding protocol design in this realm, and really how Duke operates. She took that CRC job, she worked it for several years, and now she's in an RPL job in population health. And she sent me a note of thanks recently. It said, I'll quote this: "I wanted to thank you again for taking a chance on a basic science transfer with no clinical research experience. I could never have imagined the winding road that my career has taken, but I couldn't be happier with how it all worked out." Another example I have is from something actually impacted our team. So there's a program at Duke called Duke Talent Identification Program, TIP. And it was really about bringing in students that were in maybe middle school and high school, and they'd be part of this TIP program for a number of years. And that was eliminated during the pandemic. So when I read about it in our Duke Today newsletter, which is distributed across the university, I reached out to the recruitment office, because I've worked a lot with them on all of our different jobs and getting things up to speed in that space. I feel like I have good relationships there. I said, is there any way my team could help? I knew we had lots of needs in clinical research. It was the pandemic, so we needed help on the front lines. And we were also going through a lot of change in how people were doing their jobs or thinking about their jobs, ultimately what we know as the Great Resignation. So anyhow, I gave a talk about how we had to offer, all the things that we had to offer in clinical research to all the TIP employees. A few had reached out to us afterwards to talk more about specific jobs and learn more, and one applied to a CRC job. She had many project management skills from her tip job, but needed to work in the trenches to understand clinical research. So after working on those front lines of research clinic, in that our research clinic that was really dedicated to COVID, she moved into an RPL position, and now she manages a large community engagement research endeavor at Duke. So those are just two very quick examples, and we have many examples. I have dietitians. I'm a dietitian. I have dietitians working in clinical research now. I think what we're trying to do is broaden the idea that it isn't just nurses that can work in clinical research. There are also people that can come from other clinical disciplines, other research disciplines, and just other careers, and make the transition into clinical research with just a little patience and learning, and patience not just from the individual who's coming into the job, but really patience from the managers and folks that are bringing people in. We can't just expect everybody to just hit the ground running and walk away. I mean, we really have to think about it from a long-term investment in that individual.
You've articulated a couple of things that I had not thought before we spoke. One was that everyone should work as a clinical research coordinator, no matter what job it is that they ultimately want. And I remember when I was a site operations manager, we did try to always start people as coordinators first to learn the job. Although I think it was not as intentional as you're doing. It was more like that was the easiest way to train people in a lot of ways, is that's where the most staff was like, we're in the clinic, we're seeing people. And now I can teach you on the side, I can help you figure out how this matters in terms of filling out a 1572. Now you understand all the people involved in the trial and why they're on it and where the labs are coming from. So it was very functional, but you make a really nice case for it, I think. And I'm wondering what benefits you see to having someone start as a coordinator. You said a few, but I also heard you say like someone went to real world evidence as what they did. I would think there's a lot you can learn from being hands on.
I think so. And I think the way I look at this is if you work at a site enrolling patients, whether that's in person or even in our decentralized virtual model, where you may not see the person every day, but you're talking to them maybe on a Zoom call or on the telephone, or maybe it's even in an exchange on some type of web platform, right? So as a CRC, though, you experience the research from the patient or the participant's lens. If you never work in a CRC job or have exposure to this, I think it's hard to understand how it can be both rewarding and challenging. I think it's tough to understand the environment. So I think that's always where the perspective I've come from. I think a CRC is pulled in multiple directions. They're forced to reprioritize each day. It's a lot of juggling. But the most important piece that is missed if you never work as a CRC is the people part, right? The participants in our studies are people first, and they are giving us their time and volunteering to be part of something bigger than themselves. So you get to see the altruism, the giving back, and the hope that research often provides. So I find that powerful and really incredible. And still to this day, it brings me back and grounds me. Like even in decisions that I'm making at an institutional level or something related to our infrastructure or our staff, I still come back to those early days of working directly with patients and participants and remember such remarkable experiences. I can't, it's hard for me to imagine if you've never experienced that and then you work as a monitor or you work in some other space or tech even, and you just have no idea what it's like, what that person feels like. So even if you don't ever have an opportunity to be, CRC patient or participant facing, I think that there are opportunities to learn from those individuals, from staff who are on the front lines, of really asking them, hey, how are you doing? What are you seeing? What are you hearing from patients? Because again, getting back to this patient centricity or person centricity in terms of our research is something I think that we need to do. I mean, there's a real push today for, having protocols and research questions really vetted by the patient population and our participants in the community. Like, what do you want? What does your community need us to do research on? Instead of, here's my research question, I'm going to take a bunch of information from you and I'm going to, maybe I'll bring it back to you and maybe I won't. And maybe it's important to you and maybe it isn't. And that, I think, is something that we're all in the research enterprise trying to really change.
And I think this is a lot of the reason why a lot of people who run sites end up expressing dissatisfaction. I don't really know if that's the right word, but dissatisfaction or dis-ease with some of the ways that protocols are written or that trials operate, because it doesn't actually take into account what the coordinator and the investigator go through on a daily basis. Where if the technology is bringing you down and you have someone with an adverse event, or you're trying to report a serious adverse event and you can't get the IXRS system to work, I mean, whatever it is already a difficult job. And now it's not just making it hard on the site, it's making it really hard on the patient. And that patient centricity part is so important that I do sometimes wonder why we don't have clinical research coordinators being interviewed all the time by CRO sponsors and tech companies. Like, what would make this easier? Because it could be as simple as being able to answer 5 questions on a page instead of it being 20 long because they lose their space. I mean, who knows what it would be? But I think there's a lot there. I started in academics, actually, not an academic medical center. I mean, I really started in psychology, writing protocols on like eating disorder treatment. And it wasn't until I got in front of patients that I realized I was doing it all wrong. The things I was expecting of the clinicians was not what was practical in a clinical setting. And I had no idea. I thought I was doing such a good job because I took so many classes in research design. And then you get in front of people and just, I mean, it's mind blowing how much your mind changes. And so I would love to see everyone be actually in the clinic at some point. That was fantastic. Well, let me ask you the question I'm asking everyone. And you're already an excited person about clinical research. So tell us, what specifically is exciting or amazing about working in clinical research?
So something I say all the time is research changes care. So, if we don't do research, we don't have new therapies. We don't change the delivery of whatever it is that we're trying to treat. And I'll just use a personal case, right? My daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 10. That was it's a life-changing experience for your kid. As a parent, you really don't even know what to do. Here I am, a dietitian, and you're still like faced with all these challenges, because it isn't just about what do you do and how do you intervene. It's learning all the options that you have, right? And the technology since then, she's 22 now, has changed tremendously. She has a continuous glucose monitor now. Her pump now speaks to that CGM. I mean, she doesn't have to prick her finger every single day, multiple times. I mean, there are still the challenges that come with the disease, but it is improving sort of the way the patient has to address the disease and deal with it day in and day out. Because there isn't a day that somebody with type 1 diabetes doesn't have to think about what they're eating, or even how much exercise they're getting, or what's affecting their blood sugar today, right? So every single thing that they do, it matters, right? So we just have to keep the research coming so these things continue to get better. So no matter what your role really is in the clinical research ecosystem, you get to be part of changing care. So there's so much excitement every single day that there's never a day. I've always said there's never a single day that ever looks the same, in my opinion. Either it's a new patient, it's a new protocol, it's a new idea, it's a new workflow, it's a new system. There's just so many things that touch, I think, our daily work, that it makes us really excited to come to work, right? And whether work is virtual or work is in the clinic, or it's a mixture, it's a hybrid today, it's hard to tell. But the great thing about research is that it makes you curious. Even for me, while I may not be in the trenches anymore, and I don't see patients anymore in my day-to-day work, I know that I'm creating better ways for Duke to serve our patients, our participants, our faculty, our trainees, our staff, and our students. I spend my time supporting and creating better ways, so I remain curious. And now my world has moved to more of a research on research. From startup to conduct to closeout, how do we make an improved, nimble structure to tackle the multifaceted research at Duke? We keep learning and doing better because we're all curious.
That's great. Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Denise.
You're welcome. It's been great. Thank you for having me on Sen Says. I'm very excited.